After the first American invasion of Iraq, then President George H.W. Bush enjoyed a job approval rating of 89%. 1 year and 9 months later, he got only 37% of the vote in his reelection campaign, which wasn't quite enough to win. That's how much public opinion can change in this country, and that's how quickly it can change. And public opinion is changing in the right direction on the death penalty. Support for the death penalty in this country is now at 60%, with 35% opposed. Now, 60% might sound high, but it is actually the lowest support level that the death penalty has had in 40 years. We now have very good reason to expect support for the death penalty to continue to drop, thanks to conservatives concerned about the death penalty. That's a new group that has emerged this year in opposition to the death penalty. The conservative Washington Times ran an article on Monday headlined "The Conservative Case Against the Death Penalty," quoting Mark Hyden of conservatives concerned about the death penalty, saying conservatives believe that the government should exercise fiscal responsibility and restraint, and the waste of the death penalty process is in direct conflict with fiscal conservatism. The Washington Times reported a study of prosecution costs in Maryland revealed that the average case in which the death penalty was pursued cost $1.9 million more than a case without the death penalty. The extra appeals, motions, and procedures that must be followed consume taxpayers' money, and many argue that the money could be better spent on schools and infrastructure. In California, Donald Heller, who wrote the death penalty law in 1978, now says it's been a colossal failure. The cost of our system of capital punishment is so enormous that any benefit that could be obtained from it, and now I think there's very little or zero benefit, is so dollar wasteful that it serves no effective purpose. Ron Briggs, a Republican who supported the death penalty law in 1978 in California, now says, I tell my Republican friends, close your eyes for a moment. If there was a state program that was costing $185 million a year and only gave the money to lawyers and criminals, what would you do with it? Conservatism's reigning intellectual George Will has said, capital punishment, like the rest of the criminal justice system, is a government program, so skepticism is in order. Arch-conservative Richard Viguerie has said conservatives have every reason to believe the death penalty system is no different from any politicized, costly, inefficient, bureaucratic, government-run operation, which we conservatives know are rife with injustice. But here the end result is the end of someone's life. In other words, it's a government system that kills people. Conservatives concerned about the death penalty should be welcomed into the space previously occupied only by liberal groups. Death Penalty Focus, founded in California in 1988, has been relentlessly crusading against the death penalty year in and year out. Actor Mike Farrell, who you will remember from MASH, became the president of Death Penalty Focus 20 years ago when support for the death penalty peaked at 80% in this country. Mike Farrell, as president of that organization, continues to tirelessly soldier on, exposing abuses of the death penalty and making the practical, financial, and moral case against it. Death Penalty Focus, as led by Mike Farrell, has always been able to get some attention at least once a year when they raise money Hollywood style at a gala dinner that honors people who have been helpful to the cause. People like Senator Ted Kennedy, New York's former Governor Mario Cuomo, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and, of course, a long list of Hollywood liberals over the years, including Kiefer Sutherland, James Cromwell, Danny Glover, Harry Belafonte, Hilary Swank, Sean Penn, and Alec Baldwin. Liberal organizations like Death Penalty Focus might now want to focus on what could turn out to be the fastest growing group of opponents to the death penalty, the new conservative and libertarian opponents to the death penalty. Ron Paul has said, there was a time I simply stated that I supported the death penalty. But now, Ron Paul has endorsed conservatives concerned about the death penalty. And Ron Paul said this: "I believe that support for the death penalty is inconsistent with libertarianism and traditional conservatism. So I am pleased with conservatives concerned about the death penalty's efforts to form a coalition of libertarians and conservatives to work to end capital punishment." Well, how about a coalition of liberals and libertarians and conservatives to work to end the death penalty? And how about Death Penalty Focus honoring Ron Paul for his position against the death penalty at their next big Hollywood gala? I would buy a table for that one. And yes, I would still disagree with Ron Paul and everything that we disagree on. But on that night, in that ballroom, I would happily give Ron Paul a standing ovation for leading libertarians in opposition to the death penalty.